Aarhus in the middle of our street. Come on over, Nathan. How are you?
How are you, lads? How's it going?
How are you?
Aarhus.
Aarhus.
Very well. Cold. Very cold up here. Who could have predicted such a thing?
Is it like -5, -6 cold?
No, it's like 5 degrees.
Right.
Fine. It's not going to be any lower than that either. So it's not going to be a factor. It's not going to be an excuse tonight.
Are you?
For the Irish players literally freezing once again.
Is Aarhus not the other side of the bridge? So you haven't gone to Copenhagen by mistake or Malmo?
No, I'm 100% in real Denmark today. Aarhus is about 2 hours north of Copenhagen. So I think most of the Irish fans flew into Copenhagen and got the bus up. But I managed to get on the old Ryanair direct to Aarhus, where it was pretty subdued with the Irish fans. I think it's fair to say most of them are wondering, why the hell did we book this flight?
What are the Ireland fans looking forward to most about this evening?
Going to the pub, having a strong drink. I think the actual match itself is quite irrelevant to their humour. Even a big away win at this stage is probably going to be somewhat dented by the fact that Denmark are going to rotate their players. They're already promoted. They had a big win against Wales on Friday night. They're going to be without the suspended Kasper Schmeichel and Thomas Delaney. It does seem as though Christian Eriksen is actually going to play, so at least there is that. It adds a little bit of gravitas to this match. But everything out of Aga Harida at his press conference yesterday suggests that they may well make 5-6 changes to their team. So even if we do get that big win, what does it actually mean? I still think Martin O'Neill needs it, though, obviously with one win in the last year, just to get some sort of, it's not even momentum at this stage, but just some sort of positive feeling to bring them through the winter before the qualifiers start next March.
I mean, what do you expect from Ireland tonight in terms of how we're actually going to play football? Because we've been having this minor debate here about whether or not Robbie Keane would score goals in this team. And I don't know. I mean, you stick Robbie Keane in any team and he's going to be okay, but we don't have Robbie Keane, and we haven't scored a goal in a long time in a meaningful game. So what the hell's going to happen?
I think it's going to be more of the same. I think this is going to be a 0-0 or a 1-0 either way, unless Denmark just go and batter us. I can't suddenly see a new style of play. I expect, even though a lot of the newspapers today feel that he may change to 4 at the back because he felt that 3 at the back were just too open in midfield right now. I think he'll go with 3 at the back again, but I think Robbie Keane, you're right, would score goals in any team. But you don't have Robbie Keane, so you have to find another way of scoring goals. And you need to figure out another system that at least allows you to create chances. That's been the biggest problem over the past years, that we're not creating any chances. We're not laying siege on lesser opposition's goal. It's the odd set piece here and there. Shane Duffy right now is our best goal threat. It's as simple as that. He is our most likely outlet of getting a goal. I'll be interested to see what he does with those more attacking positions. Does he play Callum Robinson as the striker, or does he play Callum Robinson playing in just behind Aidan O'Brien? But that's the only real option with Shane Long and Sean Maguire out injured. Unless, and here, why not go for it? Why not start Michael Obafemi and something just happens? He gets a goal or two, and suddenly we have this new superstar that gets us talking over the next 3 or 4 months and gets everybody excited about what might happen. Now, maybe it backfires and he doesn't do anything, but at this stage, if I'm Martin O'Neill, I'm thinking, what's the worst that can happen? This is as low as it has ever been for Irish football. So he just needs to do something. He needs to try and find some sort of a spark from somewhere.
What do you think the chances are of Martin O'Neill not being the Ireland manager when, so let's say the draw is made, right, and the draw is hard. Does that change anything? Is it?
No, I don't think so. I don't think the draw that we get for Euro 2020, if we end up with Germany and Spain or Germany and England or whatever it may be, is going to reflect how the FAI think. Like I say, what's there to lose? Maybe is there a huge amount to lose for Martin O'Neill tonight? If we go and get ripped apart again by Denmark and you end up losing this game 3 or 4-0, it's going to be very, very difficult for the FAI to justify keeping him on. And if people look at the money side of this, so say Wales and Denmark we're decent opposition and they get a big crowd into the Aviva Stadium. You end up losing big tonight, and are people going to come to the matches? So suddenly if you're playing games in front of 25,000 people, how much money is that costing the FAI week in, week out? Suddenly it's got to even itself out, particularly with Euro 2020 being played in Dublin. I still think that the money can't be that much of an issue with the amount of money you're going to gain from actually qualifying from Euro 2020 with a manager who can somehow get the best out of these players. So it all depends on those finances. I think the Irish public have lost faith. I think this is the lowest ebb we've had, certainly I ever remember in Irish football. I know people can point to the Staunton era, but that was just down solely to the manager. We knew we had the players. Right now, I don't know if we know if we have the players or not, because the manager's not getting anywhere near the best out of them. And I think Darragh Lenihan's performance on Thursday night is probably a prime example. He had an absolute horror show. But you look at him and everything you've heard from inside the camp, and you wonder, like, did he find out an hour beforehand that he was going to be playing on the right side of a three? Had he practiced that all week in training? Or was he just thrown into the lion's den and you're so unsure of yourself? And these players don't seem to have any sort of the clarity of the rugby players have, where everything, they know exactly what's expected of them. And there's going to be a lot of those comparisons made, and it's going to drive Martin O'Neill absolutely demented. But it's not just the Irish football team. You look at Irish sport in general now. Our teams are excelling because they are in an elite environment. They demand the best of themselves. They're ultra prepared. They lack for nothing, all except the Irish football team, where it seems there's little or no preparation going on. They've been thrown out of the pitch, and it's fend for yourself, lads, which is unfair on the players as well. And I don't know, reading the reports from the press conference last night with Martin O'Neill, it felt as if there was a little bit of an edge regarding, so Seamus Coleman obviously is talking a lot about the style of football and trying to get it down, and the players needing to take more responsibility. O'Neill cutting across them and saying, everything here is my responsibility. Everything here, the style of play, all of that is on me. But the performance has just been absolutely dire. And it's getting worse, if that's possible.
Just on that point that you make about another manager coming in to get the best out of these players, and that would be the reason why the FAI would replace Martin O'Neill. Like, I wonder if, even if you got a manager in who got the best out of these players, that they would even qualify for the Euros because of the fact that we are third seeds, because of the fact that there's a chance that we could get Germany in our group, who will be second seeds in our group. That when Ger says that it might be a sensible move to actually replace the management after we see the draw, well, if you see two average enough teams as our 1 and 2 seed, particularly the 2 seed is an average enough team, and we feel with just a little bit of an overachievement, we might be able to nab second spot, well, that risk is probably worth taking. Whereas if second seed is Germany, you know, getting the most out of yourselves would probably mean finishing third.
See, I don't know, because actually you look at Irish football, there's no great pattern to when we perform. We can underperform against teams below us. We've beaten Germany at home in the last 3 years. So I don't think you can look at that. I just don't see how any of the other potential candidates could do any worse with this group right now. The problem we have here is that for the first time, it feels in living memory, Irish players are playing worse for their country than they're playing for their club. They do not make the mistakes that they make in a green jersey when they're playing for their clubs, because football has moved on massively. We had Jerry Taggart on the Keith Andrews show last Thursday, just the latest in a long line of former Leicester and Celtic players we've spoken to, who said he would run through a brick wall for Martin O'Neill. But still, it's 20 years ago. These players now, the likes of Robbie Brady, Jeff Hendrick, who've come through emerging talent programs, who've come through academy systems, they are drilled to within an inch of their life when they go onto a pitch. You watch Burnley play, I can't say this enough, you watch Stephen Ward and you watch Jeff Hendrick and Robbie Brady, they don't make mistakes. They look like they are well capable, and they are well capable, of playing Premier League football. So why do they make them when they're with Ireland? Because they don't know what they're meant to be doing. Because when Jeff Hendrick gets the ball for Ireland, he doesn't have 4 options. He looks up, they haven't practiced it on the training pitch. Whereas when he gets to with Burnley, he knows exactly where the striker is going to be, the left back, the right back, the 2 wingers. They have done it in training again and again and again. Whereas everything we've seen and everything we've heard about this Irish camp is that doesn't happen.
I think we should probably start having the Stephen Kenny conversation in, like, you know, in all seriousness, where you could probably afford to pay off O'Neill and Keane and give Stephen Kenny the job, and irrespective of what happens, it'd be the right thing to do, because you would hope that they would give Stephen Kenny a 4-year deal or 2 qualifying campaigns, technically probably a 3-year deal at this stage, and like, I mean, he obviously deserves to be paid the going rate for the job. It's just that we've massively overpaid our managers for the last while. So
yeah, like, that's a weird conversation, in that when, for some reason, when you talk of Stephen Kenny, it's like, well, you know, they could probably get Stephen Kenny for 300 grand a year. And that's not really fair, in a way, in that, as you say, he should be paid whatever the going rate is. But what is the going rate? Because Ryan Giggs gets 400 grand a year, so maybe 300 grand a year for the Republic of Ireland is that. But you're going to look at the last 10 years and say, well, wait a second, if I'm getting this gig, I should be getting £1 million a year. the rewards are going to be the same if we qualify for Euro 2020 as if you were paying a manager $1 million. So maybe you just load it up with bonuses, and if you do qualify, if you do deliver. But that's why I think actually now is the time, because like Brian Kerr, when he took over, that campaign, even though they nearly turned it round, was sort of gone before it even started, his initial campaign for Euro 2004, whereas he obviously had the full campaign for the World Cup and it didn't work out. If you get someone in now, they still have a reasonable amount of time. They're going to have 3-4 months to get their head together before the next qualifiers. And remember, and it's bloody complicated, but there is something slightly possibly at stake tonight, which is you can move up one in the rankings potentially by winning tonight's game, which means it gives you a slightly better chance of qualifying for the playoffs in March 2020 for the Nations League, which I still think is almost certain to happen, regardless of what we do in Euro 2020. It would take something pretty remarkable in the qualifying campaign that we don't end up in a 14 playoff in March 2020 to qualify for the European Championship finals. So give another manager that chance. Give him the time to actually bed in, rather than what you're saying. We get Germany, and we get to Germany first night out. We end up getting whipped again, and suddenly that campaign feels like it's gone. So, yeah, I would be at this stage. I don't think Martin O'Neill has any real stock left with football supporters in this country. I think too much water's gone under the bridge. There've been too many poor nights. There's no sign of it getting any better. Yeah, we've had great moments. You can go back to Lille, you can go back to Vienna, but those performances aren't happening anymore. It is time for change. There's no question. I think everybody feels we just need something new, a fresh voice.
Could you just explain that again? Because the Nations League is not like riding a bike whatsoever. It's you completely forget the format every couple of weeks. So we finish bottom of this three-table group. We then need Wales and Denmark to qualify automatically, and then we automatically get bumped into a playoff spot.
No. What Wales and Denmark do is completely irrelevant almost to what we do over the next months in terms of the 2020 qualifiers. So basically, there's 24 teams that are going to qualify for Euro 2020. 20 of them will come from the qualifying campaign.
Yeah.
You would expect that of those 20 teams that qualified, looking at previous history, 17 or 18 of them at least are going to be from Leagues 1 and 2, Leagues A and B. Yeah. We're in League B. And then there's 4 teams from League A go to a playoff, 4 teams from League B, but that then feeds itself down. So basically, you'll have 8 teams more than likely available, because all the teams from League A should qualify. So that opens up spaces again and again, and it just feeds down a ladder system. So right now, I think we're 23rd, Northern Ireland are 24th. We could potentially go to 22nd. I still think 22nd, 23rd, 24th are all going to get through. It basically means we're looking at right now, I think, at 6 teams from League C and D would need to qualify for us not to get a playoff. And that is not going to happen.
Well,
no, remember, it's only 2 teams that qualify automatically. So you look at the quality of teams in C and D. You look at Serbia potentially.
But hang on, I mean, in the past you would have written off Iceland, Northern Ireland, like you would have looked at groups.
Above us.
But in the past, the teams in those groups, you would have looked and gone, there's no chance of Iceland qualifying, there's no chance of Northern Ireland qualifying, all the way back, there's no chance of Greece qualifying. These aren't good teams. Like, international football's gone a bit weird, stuff happens. A victory tonight would be good.
Again, but I get what you're saying. These things do happen, but you're still looking at potentially 6 of those teams qualifying automatically from the top 2 positions. And if we win tonight, you might even be looking at 7 of those teams. That has never happened. Not that amount of teams. Now, there's no guarantee you go into that playoff. You could end up in a playoff with Iceland, with Northern Ireland. It's one game. It's not over 2 legs. You got to go. You got to deliver. But you would hope by then we're actually in a position where there's a little bit of confidence, there's a little bit of something there that you feel you can go and achieve something. But I do think that in all likelihood, whoever is in charge will get that opportunity in those playoffs.
All right.
You're excited, guys. I can tell you're excited about this game.
Is there anything else to do in Aarhus other than go to watch Ireland against Denmark?
I have literally just landed in Aarhus, in an airport around 50 minutes from Aarhus, it turns out. Not really, it seems. Not a huge amount. But I'm going to go and I'm going to wander the streets for the next 12 hours and see what I can come up with.
Well, enjoy that. So do you expect Obafemi to start or not?
No, I don't expect him to start. They seemed pretty forceful last night about just throwing out caps that it's not what we want to do. We don't want to end up in the position that we're just giving them just to tie them down. Martin O'Neill was pretty strong on that. Seamus Coleman was very much in agreement. I don't think he'll start. I think he'll go with Callum Robinson. I think he'll stay with it. again, it's a Martin O'Neill team. You could get the 11 and look at it and go, what the hell is going on here? I think the back three will be Keogh, Duffy and Long. Coleman and Brady as the wing backs. Probably Cyrus Christie in midfield once again alongside Harry Arter. And from there on, I'm not quite sure what it's going to be, where Callum Robinson is. Does he go with Aidan O'Brien and give him another opportunity? Like, Aidan O'Brien isn't scoring any goals at club level at this stage. Callum O'Dowda, did he do enough in the 45 minutes against Northern Ireland to keep his place? He does have a lot of time for Callum O'Dowda. Look, it's not particularly inspiring, let's be honest.
All right. On that cheery note, Nathan.
Woohoo!
Talk to you later.
See you, lads.
It's Nathan Murphy there in Aarhus, in Denmark.
Yeah, well,
as low as it's ever been. Like,
well, my hopes are up because I did forget about that fact that we are still within a division that most people will qualify automatically for the Euros, and that basically that is the beauty of being a top 2 division team in the Nations League, that all you got to do is really not be the shittest team, just be the second shittest team, and you'll probably qualify for a playoff.
So, when do we get relegated?
What do you mean, when do we get relegated?
Into the not top 2 divisions.
Like next time we're in Division 3.
Even if we
win, we're definitely finishing bottom of this.
And if we win,
but if we win, we will sit on 3 points. So we will be better off than the other crap teams lying at the basement there and that are about to get relegated, and therefore above them on the pecking order when the ladder comes down to us to be a playoff team.
Right.
So I'm actually kind of just disappointed in myself that I didn't remember that particular rule from the Nations League.